Welcome to another episode of Golden Nuggets Tea and Tales, Season 2, powered by Husby, served by Yasin Valimulla. Yasin, tell us about a deal that seemed impossible at first, but you managed to turn it around. Drop the tea.
This is actually quite a recent story. It happened very, very recently. I think the longer you're in the market, the longer you've been around, you always get these very strange individuals reaching out on social media, by email, and you've got to really sift through what's genuine and what's not. And about 4 or 5 months back, I got a client sending me an email basically saying, "Hi, Yasin, seen your profile online. We're thinking of buying a property on the Palm, budget of $10 million. And I'm like, right, really? Yeah, of course you're right. And I was like, okay, fine. So I replied back to the email.
What made you suspicious?
So the domain name of the email was registered company, but when I put it in,
there was nothing there.
It doesn't work.
Okay, right.
I was okay. So that always is a bit of an alarm bell. But that being said, you still have to take every inquiry seriously, and then go along until to a point when you think, okay, it's not genuine. So I replied back and forth. It was a lady I was dealing with. And I said, it'd be much easier if I can get on a call with you. She was based in the UK. Because I really need to understand, $10 million on the Palm doesn't really help me because there's so much offerings on the Palm at $10 million, right? So I said, I really need to either speak with you or sit down with you. And she's like, let me speak to my husband. And it was just kind of going back. It wasn't really going anywhere, let's say, right? And I was kind of getting a bit frustrated. And then randomly one evening, she's like, we're going to be coming to Dubai next week. And we're staying on the Palm. Perfect. And I thought, well, maybe they might be genuine then, right? I said, really good. I said, my office is on the Palm. Let me know what day you're going to be there, and I'll set up, either I can pick you up from the hotel, or you can come and meet me at my office. She said, it's fine. You can, we'll come to your office. I said, send me a number. So I made a WhatsApp group, me, the husband, and the wife. Back and forth. And I still wasn't 100% sure that this is a genuine client. Googling them, not much was coming up. So anyway, on the day, it was really interesting. The day before the client came, I had a flood in my office. The whole bloody office pretty much got flooded, right? Someone came to fix something, tapped the hammer in the wrong way. 24 hours trying to clean all the office up. So we didn't, our main source, my office on the Palm isn't like a typical brokerage office. I designed it around the client, not around the agents. So it's a very client-centric office, which has got a big sofa. It's very comfortable, let's say. So that sofa had to go because it was out in cleaning, right? So that was really like, frustrating, let's say, especially if the client was going to be genuine. Anyway, client then turns up 10 minutes early. Great. Genuine client, husband and wife, came in.
They exist.
And I thought, wow, they really are clients, right? But very standoffish. Standoffish, sat down with them, trying to understand criterias, motivation of buying, me trying to give them my USP, my value proposition, and X, Y, and Z. And it was interesting. I mean, even though the wife was originally in touch with me, I'd never met the husband. She was the one that was very distant, whereas the husband, I'd say, was warmer to me.
Right.
We spent about 2 hours together, and it looked like, they sounded genuine. They've got properties in multiple different cities, including two in the UK. And I said, listen, I'm going to break it down for you. For me to work with you, I said, I don't work like typical brokers. If you're going to be in the market, dealing with 5 agents, all giving you a different version of the market, of the properties, developers, X, Y, and Z. That's great, but it doesn't work for me.
Yeah. You want exclusive.
Yeah, so I said, I know what value I bring to the table, which is why I was giving them my value proposition. And they like the fact I gave them a value proposition. So I said, to work with me, I need a 6 months exclusive. You sign with me, and you only work with me in those 6 months.
As your buyer's agent, yeah.
And then, interestingly, the buyer was like, okay, sounds interesting. Then I've got a lot of questions for you. What they hadn't mentioned to me, which he mentioned later, is that he'd been on my website and he'd seen that I do exclusive buyer representation, right? So he'd already prepared questions for me. So he then pretty much interviewed me for an hour. Why should I give you the value? Like, what are you bringing? Okay, you've given your simple value proposition, but if I'm going to give you 6 months of me working with you, what are you really bringing to the table, right? X, Y, and Z. So again, he had loads of questions, and he pulled a piece of paper, and I thought, wow, he's really thought it through, because it wasn't just after he was literally asked me multiple questions.
And you're thinking, 10 minutes ago, I didn't even know you existed.
So he went from not being a genuine client to a really genuine client, them really grilling me, which I liked, because if they weren't serious, they wouldn't have gone through the whole thing of doing it. And interestingly, they said to me at the end, They said, we've met with two of the largest brokerages here a few weeks back. Don't want to name their names. One of them I used to work for. And not one of the agents has offered us a buyer's representation, right? We bought two properties in London. They're not from UK originally. They relocated. I said, when we relocated, we used a company. We bought two properties with an agent who we also signed exclusive buyer representation. And he was very interesting. No one in Dubai was offering it. You're the first one to actually offer this, right? Cut long story short, he had his passport with him. We did the contract and he signed, right?
Where's he from originally?
Indian origin.
Okay.
Born in South Africa.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and then we signed the exclusive agency, exclusive buyers agreement. Of course, when it's that budget, they're going to be quite demanding. But it's not just a demand. If they're signing exclusive with me, they're expecting me to give 200% because now they've signed into me as an individual, right? So then it came to me having to educate them on every single project on the Palm because they were advised by friends to buy in Business Bay, but they always had an affinity to the Palm, and they wanted me to advise them why someone would choose the Palm over the new canal area or the Business Bay area, because that's where a lot of the high, let's say the newer branded projects are coming up. So the first project I offered them, the first one, they discounted it straight away.
Because?
I think it was more because from their circle of friends, because they've got people friends living in Dubai for a very, very long time, and they're relocating. And for whatever reason, they had a negative connotation to that developer, which is very interesting because, in my opinion, they are the number one luxury developer in Dubai that's actually delivered a luxury product as well. A lot of developers brand themselves as luxury, but proof is in the pudding, right? Have they delivered something? And these guys had delivered. So initially they said no. And they were like, we're interested in this, we're interested in that. So I must have shown them about 8-9 projects on the Palm. They were in Dubai for about 2 weeks, let's say. So it was day in, day out, taking them here, taking them. Spent 2 weeks with them. We narrowed it down to 2 projects. We were under negotiation they were off-plan resales on the Palm, branded projects. Big ticket, 35, 40 million dirham price range. And whilst we were negotiating, I said to, so they were back in the UK, and I said to them, guys, as your advisor, I need to advise you, because this is my job, this is what you signed into, right? That I would still recommend that there's 2 projects that you discounted initially that you visit before we finally decide on the other 2 that we're currently negotiating with the agents on, right? So I said, I'm going to send you an email, because the way I communicate, we do all the everyday talk on WhatsApp, but all the official stuff is on email, so it's much more organised.
That's such a British thing to do.
No, but it's organised for me and organised for them as well, because WhatsApp, everything gets lost, right? Even though it's a personal group, whatever. Sent 2 emails across, said review it, because before we finalise, I really want you to make sure, because I don't want you to come back in a year or two's time and say,
why didn't you?
Guess what, that project, you never really did a deep dive. If we've given you exclusivity, shouldn't be your responsibility to have said to me, well, guess what, you really need to look into it, right? Which is why I did that. Looked into it, I remember it was a Friday. Over the weekend, they're like, yes, actually, these projects seem really interesting. I said, I told you, did I?
So, yeah.
Only difference being the price point was higher. I said, that's true. But in my opinion, there is no comparative product of this, not only in Dubai, or for me, in the Middle East, a branded beachfront project like it. And there's nothing in the pipeline from what I've seen, anything that's going to be coming up either. And Palm being so restrictive with what's left now in terms of plots, there isn't anything in the pipeline that's even to that level, right? So I said, we really, really need to focus on one of these. Which one? One of them was already launched. One was not launched yet. We then decided to go for the brand new one, which was, it was pre-launch phase, let's say. So we were back and forth. We then had a Zoom with the developer, and then they finalized with a property, which was nearly double their original budget.
Wow.
Yeah. And in the beginning, that, like I say, I could have easily have discounted that email. Because I've had hundreds of those emails, by the way, from people who are just absolute time wasters and send us your bank, all this kind of stuff. And you just don't know, right? But it is in the follow-up. It is in making sure that you keep at them until you get... So I've always used CRMs. I'm very good with follow-up. I do touch points with my clients all the time. I've done it for a very, very long time. And I know that only until you get to a certain point do you then say, enough is enough. They're not genuine. And even then, if I've got their contact details and their email, they still go into marketing campaigns. They never disappear fully. Right? But then the energy and effort has to be pulled back because you can't give everyone that energy and effort if they genuinely are not genuine clients. But yeah, interestingly,
but you've got you didn't believe they were real. Then the project that you had in mind, their friends discounted on their behalf. Then they end up doubling their budget. And I suppose when
doubling their budget, exactly.
When you've got $10 million, what's another $10 million? I think people do limit themselves, or agents accept limitations
100%
without delving deeper, just putting it in front of them.
Because for me, it's like, okay, $10 million gets you this, 12 to 15 gets you this, a bit more gets you that. Now, if you're telling me your criteria is X, Y, and Z, because a lot of the time it's trying to go down to the basics, the foundation, because there's always going to be things that are non-negotiables.
Yes.
So for me, it's what's your non-negotiables and what are the negotiables where if you had them, great, but you could technically sacrifice them because you can't have 10 non-negotiables. You just can't because you're always going to be hitting a brick wall. And I think sometimes, you then got a deep dive with the client, sit down with them, and sometimes, it's them even having to really think what's really important for us. Because interestingly, one of their non-negotiables, we had to sacrifice on the unit that they bought.
Oh, they did.
Because they wanted a duplex sky villa concept, which is not what we ended up buying.
Okay.
Simply because it wasn't available in the project, right? And that took time for them to accept it. But when we then looked at the stats, the reality, how big the property was, the fact it was a dual aspect view compared to a normal one, which was just one aspect view. Ultimately, they didn't really need that. I think they had this kind of dream of having a villa in the sky. But then I was like, what's the practicality of having that? Like, would you not just have the 7,000 on one level rather than having to go up? And then when they really thought about it, what, yes, you're actually right. And then we get the best of both because we get views on both sides. But yeah, I mean, it's just deep diving. And sometimes people have to then question their non-negotiables as well, or negotiables, and then just try and what works for them, what doesn't work for them.
Brilliant. Love that story.